Healers are losing access to interrupts in World of Warcraft Midnight. Now, if you're not keeping up with all of the alpha news that's going on right now, I don't blame you. There's a lot and it's constantly changing. However, this is something that was posted just the other day by Blizzard, and it's pretty concrete as far as the direction that they're traveling, so we need to talk about it. All right, I'm going to throw that blue post up on the screen, but I will also link it down below if you want to read the entire article in of itself. But let's go ahead and just focus on the main part here. Healing can be a stressful role when you must manage several things at once: your own healing abilities, your team's health, and the enemy's actions. We feel that asking the healer to monitor the cast bar of things they don't have targeted while properly using their interrupts was asking too much. In the Midnight Alpha this week, we've removed access to interrupts from all healer specializations except Restoration Shaman. These talents will be replaced with other talent nodes for healer specs in a future Midnight Alpha build. Now, if you're hearing this for the very first time, I imagine your initial reaction to that is similar to mine. What the fuck? Why are you taking away interrupts when it's something that I need and I constantly use? And, I do like to try to stay positive when it comes to World of Warcraft, and I'll talk about why I think this is a positive thing and a step in the right direction for the future of WoW. However, initially, this does hurt, and I'm speaking as somebody who has played as tank, DPS, and healer in Raid and Mythic Plus. So in healing Mythic Pluses, I do keep track of enemy cast bars because I have to, because I know then where damage is going and where it's coming from. And if I see, for instance, a mob that is casting a very harmful spell, especially like a party-wide spell, and none of the DPS are deciding to interrupt that, I take it upon myself to ensure that that spell is interrupted, making it so that I have a much easier time in my Mythic Plus run. I feel like that's what a lot of people do, and obviously this is going to be much more focused and centric around like the mid to lower keys as opposed to the really high keys. When you get to really high keys, you're dealing with a completely different skill level, and this is not like a huge big deal. I think this primarily targets the mid to lower keys and the entry into Mythic Plus. And I think a lot of people need to keep that in mind. I understand from the higher end perspective that it does kind of reduce the skill ceiling, because it's like, you're in a different skill level. You're able to completely handle this. This is primarily focused towards the larger population that is in the lower to mid keys. So that is where I'm going to keep my focus on. Just keep that in mind as we talk. I understand if you're a top tier player, it really fucking hurts and it feels like your skill level is being lowered. Completely understood, completely justified in your responses as far as verbalizing that. But in mid to lower keys, the skill ceiling is not there, right? You're dealing with mid to lower skilled players, and then of course you have to make up for other people's mistakes. DPS isn't constantly interrupting, they're not keeping track of their cooldowns and things like that. That is where the main issue arises. Now, focusing on why I said this is better for the future, one of the main contentious points that we've had and that have been talked about is the tank and healer shortage in World of Warcraft. And this is something that directly correlates to that main issue. Reason being, Mythic Plus has a much higher barrier to entry for healers than it does for the other specs. And let me explain why. We're going to exclude affixes because everybody has to deal with affixes. Tanks have to know the route and they have to handle interrupts. DPS has to deal the most damage and they have to handle interrupts. Healers have to heal everybody, they have to deal damage, and they have to manage interrupts. Healers basically have one additional responsibility as opposed to tanks and DPS. This creates a higher barrier to entry for new players that want to heal but are trying to break into that scene. It's much more challenging. Thus, removing the issue of having to deal with interrupts now makes it a little bit easier for new healers to get into Mythic Plus. That is the main point of contention. That is exactly why I think they are making this change. And I would love to hear your thoughts on that down below. All right, we're going to close this video out with just a few other comments that were made inside this blue post. Number one being that they are going to make sure enemies spread damage much more evenly across the party. This should theoretically reduce the party members, like somebody going from 100 down to 10% because they got hit with 2 spells back to back. And now it'll be 100 down to 50%, and then all of a sudden another party member goes like from 100 down to 75, hopefully making it a much more smooth healing experience overall. Another point that was also made was about solo content. I saw people that had talked about this as well, this being a concern. What are we doing about delves or world content? What about the prey system? If you're going to run it as a healing spec, personally, I think that's kind of weird. I don't think you should be running a healing spec, but I'm not going to tell you how to play, especially with the 1-button rotation. Just throw that in and, have fun. Regardless, Blizzard said that they are going to address this. They are aware of this, and they are going to ensure that the solo content is still completable by healers even without an interrupt. So we don't really have any other further details about that, but they are aware of this. They understand everybody's concerned with that, and they are going to adjust things accordingly. So that's not really something we can talk about much more until they have an actual solution. Again, they're also replacing those interrupts with new talents or with new abilities or some type of skill thing. It's not just removing something. We are still going to gain something. Again, that hasn't been announced yet. We'll find that out next week as well. Oh, and one final thing, Shaman apparently doesn't have their interrupt taken away. Wind Shear, I don't know why. If anybody knows why, is that like lore related or something? Just let me know down in the comments, because I'm actually genuinely intrigued. I play a Shaman, so regardless, I think that will maybe make Shamans a little bit more highly sought after because they already have Bloodlust, and if they're the only healer with an interrupt, I think maybe the lower keys groups might be more inclined to search for Shaman healers as opposed to others as well. But that's not something we'll really know until we get there either. So yeah, that's it. Really big change. I think it's a positive thing, even though I'm not super happy about it myself. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you're new, I do WoW content, and I'm currently live streaming a level 1 through 60 journey on Classic WoW, my very first time. If you want to check it out, YouTube, Twitch, and Kick. I stream on all three. Also have a Prefessional merch store. Shout out to channel members. I love and support you guys so much. I'll see you in the next one.